Victoria Hayes stood outside the glass tower on Fifth Avenue, staring at her reflection in the polished windows. Her dark curls were pulled into a professional bun, and her navy dress suit projected confidence she did not feel. Inside her portfolio were designs that represented 3 years of blood, sweat, and dreams. Inside her heart was desperation she refused to name. The elevator ride to the 42nd floor felt like ascending toward judgment. Her interior design firm was drowning in debt, and her brother James needed surgery that insurance would not cover. She had exactly 17 days before the bank foreclosed on everything she had built. Nathan Pierce's office was a study in minimalist luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Manhattan like a kingdom spread before a throne. The man behind the mahogany desk barely looked up when she entered. He was handsome in that distant, sculpted way of magazine covers and boardroom photographs. His dark hair was graying at the temples, giving him an air of distinguished authority. Everything about him screamed untouchable. "Miss Hayes." His voice was smooth, professional, completely devoid of warmth. "Please sit." Victoria settled into the leather chair, clutching her portfolio like a shield. She had come to pitch a redesign for his hotel chain's flagship property. What she got instead changed her life forever. "I have reviewed your work," Nathan said, sliding her portfolio across the desk without opening it. "Your designs are exceptional. However, I am not interested in hiring you as a designer." Her stomach dropped. "I do not understand." He leaned back in his chair, studying her with those calculating gray eyes. "I need a wife for 1 year. In exchange, I will pay you $2 million and cover any additional expenses you require." The words hung in the air like smoke. Victoria blinked, certain she had misheard. "Excuse me? My late father's will stipulates that I must be married to claim full control of the family trust. The board of directors is pressuring me to settle down and project stability. I need someone intelligent, presentable, and most importantly, someone who understands this is purely a business arrangement." Victoria felt her face flush with anger. "You think you can just purchase a wife like you would purchase furniture? I think we can help each other." Nathan pulled a folder from his drawer and slid it across the desk. "I had my people research your situation. Your brother needs surgery. Your business is failing. This solves both problems." She wanted to throw the folder in his face. She wanted to storm out with her dignity intact. Instead, she opened it and saw the exact figures of her debts, James's medical bills, everything laid bare like an autopsy of her life. 1 year, Nathan continued, his tone never wavering from that clinical detachment. "We maintain separate bedrooms, separate lives. You attend necessary social functions with me. We present a united front to the board and the media. When the year ends, we divorce quietly, and you walk away with enough money to secure your future and your brother's health. The devil you know." 3 days later, Victoria signed the contract in a lawyer's office that smelled of leather and old money. Nathan sat across from her, his signature already drying on the pages. There was no romance, no pretense, just 2 people entering a transaction. The wedding was a small affair at City Hall. Victoria wore a simple cream dress she had purchased the night before. Nathan wore one of his endless collection of perfect suits. They spoke the vows with the enthusiasm of people reading a phone book. When the officiant said they could kiss, Nathan simply nodded and shook her hand. "Welcome to the arrangement," he said. His penthouse was a monument to wealth and emptiness. Marble floors stretched endlessly. Modern art hung on walls that had never heard laughter. Victoria's bedroom was larger than her entire previous apartment, decorated in shades of gray and white that felt like living inside a cloud. Ruby, the housekeeper, was the only warmth in the entire space. The older woman with kind eyes and silver hair helped Victoria unpack her few belongings. "He is not as cold as he seems," Ruby whispered while hanging Victoria's dresses in a closet that could house a small family. "He just forgot how to let people in." Victoria doubted that. Nathan Pierce seemed perfectly content with his ice palace existence. Learning the dance. The first weeks were exercises in awkward politeness. They passed each other in hallways like ghosts. Victoria worked on reviving her design business from the guest bedroom she had converted into an office. Nathan disappeared into his study for 16-hour workdays, emerging only for the occasional dinner where they sat at opposite ends of a table built for 12. She learned his routines through observation. He drank black coffee at 6 every morning. He read 3 newspapers before most people woke. He listened to jazz when he thought no one could hear. He was left-handed. He rubbed his temple when stressed. He had nightmares that made him pace the penthouse at 3 in the morning. Victoria told herself she was simply being observant, not invested. This was temporary. This was business. Her heart had no place in this arrangement. But hearts, she was learning, do not read contracts. One evening, she found Nathan standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring out at the city lights. Something about his posture looked lost. "Bad day?" she asked before she could stop herself. He turned, surprised she had spoken. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Something human and raw and quickly buried. "Just another day," he said, and the walls came back up. Victoria returned to her room, telling herself she did not care. But that night, she lay awake wondering what it would take to see that flicker again. Week 7 brought an unexpected snowstorm that trapped Manhattan in white silence. Victoria woke to find the city transformed, buildings dressed in powder like wedding cakes. She padded to the kitchen in her pajamas and fuzzy socks, forgetting for a moment that she was not alone. Nathan stood at the espresso machine, dressed in gray sweatpants and a black t-shirt. She had never seen him in anything but suits. The casual clothing made him look younger, more approachable, almost human. His hair was messy from sleep, and there was stubble on his jaw. They both froze, caught in domestic intimacy neither had prepared for. "I was just making coffee," he said, as if he needed to explain his presence in his own kitchen. "I can come back later," Victoria replied, already backing toward the door. "Stay." The word came out rougher than he intended. He cleared his throat. "I mean, you live here too. You should not have to hide in your room." She hesitated, then moved to the breakfast bar. He poured her a cup without asking how she took it. Black with 1 sugar. He had been paying attention. They sat in silence, sipping coffee while snow fell past the windows like a million quiet secrets. The city below was still asleep, and for once, the penthouse did not feel like a mausoleum. "My father died in a snowstorm," Nathan said suddenly. 5 years ago. His car slid off a bridge upstate. Victoria looked up, startled by this offering of truth. He was coming home from a business meeting he did not need to attend. Always working, always building, always pushing. Nathan stared into his cup like it held answers. "I inherited his empire and his obsessions. Sometimes I wonder if I inherited his fate too." "You are not your father," Victoria said softly. "How would you know?" There was no hostility in his question, only genuine curiosity. "Because you remember how I take my coffee. Because you work late but you never miss checking on Ruby when she has her arthritis flare-ups. Because you think nobody notices the donations you make to children's hospitals, but I see the thank you letters on your desk." Nathan looked at her then, really looked at her, and something shifted in the air between them. Breaking bread and barriers. The snowstorm kept them trapped for 3 days. On the second night, the power flickered and died, plunging the penthouse into darkness. Victoria emerged from her room with candles and blankets, finding Nathan attempting to order food from restaurants that were all closed. "I can cook," she offered. "We have ingredients?" She laughed, a sound that seemed to surprise them both. "You have never looked in your own refrigerator, have you?" Together they raided the kitchen, finding pasta and vegetables and wine that Ruby had stocked. Victoria cooked while Nathan attempted to help, getting in the way more than assisting. He nearly cut his finger chopping onions. He added salt instead of sugar to the sauce. But he was trying, and that mattered more than competence. They ate by candlelight at the kitchen island instead of the formal dining table. The pasta was slightly overcooked and the sauce too salty, but it was the best meal either had eaten in months. "Tell me about James," Nathan said, pouring more wine. "Your brother. All I know is what was in the medical reports." Victoria felt her defenses rise, then consciously lowered them. "He is 23, stubborn, brilliant, and terrible at asking for help. He wants to be a music teacher. Before he got sick, he volunteered at community centers, teaching kids who could not afford lessons." "He sounds like you." "What do you mean?" "Stubborn. Brilliant. Terrible at asking for help." Nathan smiled, and it transformed his entire face. "You almost lost your business rather than compromise your vision. You tried every bank in the city before coming to me." "How did you know that?" "I told you. I did my research." He paused. "I also know you paid your employees' salaries out of your savings even when you could not pay yourself. That takes courage." Victoria felt heat rise to her cheeks. "It takes desperation." "No," Nathan said firmly. "Desperation is what I did. Buying a wife because I could not face my father's legacy alone. What you did was sacrifice. There is a difference." The candles burned lower. The wine bottle emptied. And slowly, carefully, two people began to see each other as more than contractual obligations. The night everything changed. On the third night, Victoria could not sleep. She wandered to the living room and found Nathan on the leather couch, staring at photographs spread across the coffee table. She recognized his parents, younger versions caught in happy moments that contradicted everything she thought she knew. "They loved each other once," Nathan said without looking up. "Before the money consumed everything. Before ambition became more important than presence." Victoria sat beside him, close enough to see the photos but far enough to maintain safety. "What happened?" "My father built an empire. My mother withered in its shadow. By the time I was 10, they barely spoke. By the time I was 15, she was gone. Heart attack, the doctor said. But I think she just stopped wanting to live in a world where she did not matter." "Nathan." Victoria reached out instinctively, covering his hand with hers. He looked down at their joined hands like he had never seen such a thing. "I swore I would never become him. That I would never sacrifice people for profit. But look at what I did. I turned marriage into a merger. I turned you into an asset." "You saved my brother's life," Victoria said. "You saved my business. Maybe your methods were cold, but your actions were kind." "Were they?" He turned to face her fully. "Or was I just using your desperation to solve my problems? Maybe it was both. Maybe people are complicated." They sat in the darkness, hands still touching, the photographs scattered like evidence of lives half-lived. Outside, the city was waking up. Plows scraped streets. Lights flickered back on in neighboring buildings. The storm was ending. "I do not want to be alone anymore," Nathan whispered, so quietly she almost missed it. Victoria felt her heart crack open. "Then stop pushing people away." He looked at her with those gray eyes that were no longer cold but burning with something dangerous and real. "What if I do not remember how to let someone in? Then I will teach you." The space between them disappeared. Nathan cupped her face with hands that trembled slightly. Victoria leaned into his touch, breaking every rule they had established. When his lips met hers, it was not the polite kiss of strangers at City Hall. It was hunger and hope and a year of denied longing pouring out like flood water through a broken dam. They pulled apart, breathless and terrified. "This was not part of the contract," Nathan said. I know. We have rules. I know. Victoria. Her name was a prayer and a question. What are we doing? She thought of the divorce papers waiting in her nightstand drawer. She thought of the calendar marking down days until freedom. She thought of her carefully constructed walls and his impenetrable fortress. I think, she said slowly, we are being honest for the first time. Nathan stood, pacing to the windows where dawn was breaking pink and gold over the city. In 2 weeks, our contract ends. You will take your money and leave. That was the agreement. Yes. So this, whatever this is, it cannot go anywhere. No. He turned back to her, and the look on his face was pure anguish. Then why does it feel like the only real thing I have ever had? Victoria had no answer. She stood and walked to her bedroom, closing the door softly behind her. She pressed her back against it, heart racing, lips still tingling from a kiss that changed everything and solved nothing. In the living room, Nathan picked up the photographs and carefully put them away. Then he sat in the darkness and wondered how he had let a contract become the most important relationship of his life. The storm had passed, but the real turbulence was just beginning. The last 14 days passed like sand through fingers. Victoria and Nathan circled each other like planets caught in gravity, pulled together but afraid to collide. They maintained their routines with desperate normalcy. Coffee in the morning. Polite conversation at dinner. Separate bedrooms at night. But everything had changed, and they both knew it. Victoria threw herself into work, accepting 3 new design projects that would start after her contract ended. She packed her belongings slowly, one drawer at a time, as if spreading out the grief would make it hurt less. Each item she folded felt like closing a chapter she had never meant to write. Nathan became a ghost in his own home. He worked later, traveled more, anything to avoid the countdown neither could stop. But Victoria noticed things. Fresh flowers appeared in her workspace every Monday. Her favorite tea restocked itself. Her car service always arrived exactly when she needed it, though she had never mentioned her schedule. Ruby watched them both with sad, knowing eyes. You are 2 fools dancing around the truth, she muttered while preparing dinner on the final Friday. Stubborn, proud fools. Victoria helped chop vegetables, needing something to do with her hands. It was always temporary, Ruby. We both knew that. Knowing something and accepting it are different things, child. That night, Victoria found an envelope on her pillow. Inside was a check for $2 million and a handwritten note in Nathan's precise script. Thank you for keeping your promise. The divorce papers are with my attorney. Sign them whenever you are ready. I hope your brother's recovery continues well. I hope your business flourishes. I hope you find everything you are looking for. Nathan. No poetry. No passion. Just clinical gratitude that felt like a slap. Victoria crumpled the note, then smoothed it out again, hating how her hands shook. This was what she wanted, what they had agreed to. Freedom. Independence. Her life back. So why did it feel like dying? When silence becomes screaming. The final day arrived wrapped in ordinary hours. Victoria woke at dawn, showered, dressed in jeans and a sweater instead of her usual professional armor. Her bags were packed and waiting by the door. James was picking her up at noon to help her move back to her renovated apartment in Brooklyn. She made coffee out of habit, setting Nathan's blue mug on the counter even though she did not know if he was home. She had not seen him in 3 days. He had been in San Francisco for meetings, or so Ruby said. Victoria suspected he was avoiding the goodbye. She was pouring cream when she heard footsteps behind her. Nathan stood in the kitchen doorway, looking more disheveled than she had ever seen him. His suit was wrinkled, his tie loosened, his hair falling across his forehead. His eyes were red-rimmed and haunted. You came back, Victoria said, her voice barely above a whisper. I could not let you leave without seeing you one more time. He moved into the kitchen but kept the island between them, that familiar safety barrier. Your brother is coming at noon? Yes. Your apartment is ready? Yes. Good. That is good. He picked up his coffee mug with mechanical precision. I wanted to thank you again. For everything. You fulfilled your end of the agreement perfectly. Victoria felt something snap inside her chest. Stop it. Stop what? Stop talking like I am a business transaction you are closing. Her voice rose, all the emotion she had been suppressing for weeks pouring out. Stop pretending this year meant nothing. Stop hiding behind contracts and politeness and all your carefully constructed walls. Nathan set down his mug with a sharp click. What do you want me to say, Victoria? I want you to be honest. Just once, be honest. Fine. His voice turned sharp, defensive. You want honesty? I do not know how to do this. I do not know how to be the man you deserve. My father destroyed my mother with his obsession with success. I swore I would never inflict that on anyone. This arrangement, this distance, it was supposed to protect us both. Protect us from what? From this. He gestured between them, his composure cracking. From feeling things I have no right to feel. From wanting things I do not know how to keep. Victoria walked around the island, eliminating the barrier between them. What do you want, Nathan? Not what you think you should want. Not what the contract says. What do you actually want? He looked at her like she was asking him to translate a foreign language. I want you to stay, he said finally, the words dragged from somewhere deep and painful. I want to wake up and know you will be here. I want to learn how you take your tea and what makes you laugh and what you dream about at 3 in the morning. I want to deserve you, even though I know I do not. You think I am so perfect? Victoria laughed, but it came out broken. I am terrified, Nathan. I spent this entire year falling for a man I was contractually forbidden to love. I told myself it was gratitude, or proximity, or anything but the truth. But the truth is, I do not want to leave. I do not want to go back to my life before you. But I am scared that what we have only exists because of the walls we built. What if we tear them down and there is nothing underneath? The truth that sets you free. Nathan closed the distance between them, his hands framing her face with a gentleness that contradicted his usual control. Then we find out together. The contract ends today, Victoria whispered. Then we write a new one. No lawyers, no terms, no expiration date. Just two people choosing each other every single day. What if we fail? Then we fail honestly instead of succeeding at pretending. His thumb traced her cheekbone, catching a tear she had not realized was falling. I am tired of being afraid, Victoria. I have spent 5 years building walls to avoid becoming my father. But he did not fail because he loved too much. He failed because he loved too little. Because he put everything else first. Victoria felt her heart hammering against her ribs. What are you saying? I am saying that I love you. The words came out rough, unpracticed, perfect. I have loved you since the day you challenged me in my office instead of taking my money quietly. I have loved you through every careful breakfast and polite dinner. I have loved you from the other side of these walls we built, and I am done pretending I do not. She started crying in earnest now, a year of suppressed emotion breaking free. I love you too. I have been trying so hard not to, but I do. I love your terrible cooking and your jazz music and the way you pretend you do not care but you notice everything. I love how you are with Ruby and how you remember details and how you are trying so hard to be different from your father that you cannot see you already are. Nathan pulled her against him, and Victoria felt something inside her settle, like a key finding its lock. They stood in the kitchen where they had shared so many careful mornings, finally allowing themselves to be reckless. The divorce papers, Nathan said against her hair. I never signed them, Victoria admitted. They have been sitting in my nightstand for 2 weeks. I kept telling myself I would do it tomorrow. He pulled back to look at her, and his smile was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. So technically, we are still married. Technically. Then technically, I would like to kiss my wife. That can be arranged. This kiss was different from the one during the snowstorm. That had been desperate, stolen, forbidden. This was a promise, a beginning, a choice made with open eyes and open hearts. Victoria threaded her fingers through his hair, and Nathan lifted her onto the counter, stepping between her knees like he was coming home. When they finally broke apart, breathless and laughing, Nathan rested his forehead against hers. What do we tell James when he arrives? Victoria glanced at the clock. They had 30 minutes. We tell him I am not moving out. We tell him the contract marriage turned into something real. We tell him his sister is staying with the man she loves. He is going to think I manipulated you. Then I will explain that I manipulated you right back. She kissed him again, softer this time. Besides, he will be too busy lecturing me about romance to worry about logistics. Nathan laughed, the sound free and genuine. I do not know how to be a real husband, Victoria. I only know contracts and boardrooms and keeping people at a distance. Then I will teach you, she said, echoing her words from the snowstorm. And you will teach me how to let someone take care of me without feeling like I am losing myself. We will figure it out together. Together, he repeated, like he was testing the word. I like the sound of that. Ruby appeared in the doorway, took one look at them tangled together on the counter, and smiled. Finally. I was beginning to think I would need to lock you two in a room. Ruby, I am staying, Victoria announced. I know, child. I have known since the day you moved in. You just needed time to figure it out yourselves. She handed Nathan a small box. This belonged to your mother. She would want Victoria to have it. Nathan opened the box with trembling hands. Inside was a simple gold wedding band, worn smooth with years of wearing. She gave this to me before she died. Made me promise to give it to someone I truly loved. He slipped it onto Victoria's finger, next to the placeholder band they had bought for the contract wedding. It fit perfectly. A real marriage, Victoria said, looking at the ring through tears. No contracts, no end dates. Just us, Nathan agreed. Messy and honest and real. When James arrived at noon, he found his sister in the kitchen, unpacking boxes instead of loading them. Nathan was attempting to make lunch, burning grilled cheese with enthusiastic incompetence. Ruby supervised with amused patience. I thought you were moving out, James said, confused. Victoria looked at Nathan, who looked back at her with everything they had been too afraid to say for a year written plainly on his face. Change of plans, she said. Turns out I am exactly where I belong. James looked between them, understanding dawning. You two actually fell in love. Accidentally, Nathan admitted. Completely, Victoria added. Inevitably, Ruby finished, serving perfectly toasted sandwiches she had made while they were distracted. And in that moment, with terrible grilled cheese and real wedding rings and a family forming from the ruins of a contract, Victoria realized that sometimes the best love stories are the ones you never meant to write. Sometimes you find home in the last place you expected. Sometimes business arrangements turn into forevers. Nathan took her hand across the table, no longer afraid to touch her in daylight. Victoria squeezed back, no longer afraid to stay. The divorce papers went into the fireplace that night, burning into ash and memory. The contract marriage was over. The real one was just beginning. The end.